Early life and background. Jessica Lynn Masker was born on March 18, 1989. From an early age, she faced challenges that would shape the course of her life. Family members believed she suffered from a hearing impairment, though it was never formally diagnosed. This difficulty created barriers in her education, as Jessica often struggled to keep up with classroom instruction. As a result, she was held back several times, repeating grades while her peers advanced. Eventually, her younger sister caught up to her academically, and the two attended classes together. The experience of falling behind left Jessica feeling isolated and frustrated. She found school increasingly discouraging, and by the time she reached her teenage years, she was disengaged. Unable to overcome the repeated academic setbacks, Jessica dropped out of high school. At the same time, she began experimenting with drugs, a path influenced both by her struggles in school and by the challenges of adolescence. Despite these difficulties, Jessica's personality shone through. Friends and relatives described her as outgoing and fun-loving, often the one to bring laughter into a room. She had a magnetic presence, quickly becoming the center of attention at gatherings. Her light-hearted spirit contrasted with the hardships she carried privately. As she grew older, Jessica became a mother to 2 sons. Parenthood transformed her priorities, and she dedicated herself to caring for her children as a young single mother. To support them, she worked as an exotic dancer for a time. Later, she decided to pursue her GED, determined to create a stable foundation for her family. This period revealed her resilience, balancing responsibility with the hope of a brighter future. Her early life established a portrait of strength and struggle, both essential in understanding her journey. Life before the disappearance. In the months leading up to April 2013, Jessica Lynn Masker's life was marked by turmoil and hardship. Central to this period was her relationship with her boyfriend, a man her family described as abusive and controlling. Their time together was punctuated by violence, with Jessica sustaining serious injuries from repeated assaults. These incidents reportedly left her with broken bones, damage to her hip, and even a fractured spine, consequences that lingered physically and emotionally. Alongside the abuse, her boyfriend was also accused of introducing Jessica to heavier drug use, compounding the struggles she had faced since adolescence. Addiction deepened her vulnerability, creating a cycle of dependency that was difficult to escape. Family members later recalled how this relationship seemed to intensify every difficulty she already carried. Just days before she vanished, Jessica reportedly overdosed and was rushed to the hospital. The incident underscored the dangerous reality of her situation, highlighting both the severity of her addiction and the instability of her environment. During this same time, her boyfriend was arrested on battery charges, reflecting the pattern of violence that had become a hallmark of their relationship. Despite these overwhelming challenges, Jessica's role as a mother remained central to her identity. Her youngest son, born prematurely and drug-dependent, was receiving care in the hospital's neonatal intensive care unit. Jessica made consistent visits to see him, demonstrating a determination to remain present in his fragile early life. Her family emphasized that her devotion to both of her children was unwavering, and they firmly believed she would never have chosen to abandon them. This backdrop of abuse, addiction, and maternal devotion forms the foundation for understanding the final 48 hours before Jessica was last seen, the day before she vanished on April 14, 2013. Jessica Lynn Masker entered what would become the last confirmed day of her known life. The morning began under the shadow of violence and addiction. Following a domestic incident involving her boyfriend and the aftermath of a reported drug overdose, Jessica was involuntarily committed to a hospital. The admission reflected both her fragile physical state and the deep concern surrounding her ongoing struggles. Her time in the hospital was short-lived. Later that same day, Jessica was released and placed into the care of relatives, signaling an attempt to return her to a safer environment. She was taken to her cousin's home, located in the 4800 block of East Washington Street in Indianapolis, where she intended to spend the remainder of the day. For her family, this transition offered cautious optimism, providing her with stability after a sequence of chaotic events. Throughout the afternoon, Jessica remained inside her cousin's residence. Those close to her observed a woman weighed down by recent hardships, but also showing determination to hold on. The home offered a temporary refuge, a contrast to the turbulence she had endured in her relationship and personal battles. It marked an effort, however fragile, to create a pause in the relentless cycle of conflict and addiction. By evening, Jessica was still at the East Washington Street home. Though surrounded by family, the undercurrents of tension lingered, leaving her future uncertain. The events of that day, beginning with hospitalization and ending with quiet hours inside her cousin's residence, captured the rapid shifts in her life's trajectory. Within hours, she would move from relative safety to disappearance, a turn that has haunted her loved ones for more than a decade. The early morning of April 15, 2013, at approximately 3 a.m. on April 15, 2013, tension rose inside Jessica Lynn Masker's cousin's home. An argument broke out between the two women, leading Jessica to leave on foot into the early morning darkness. Her destination was a BP gas station located at 561 East Washington Street in Indianapolis. Surveillance footage later confirmed her arrival, establishing one of the final verified sightings of her life. While at the gas station, Jessica reached out to her brother by phone. During the call, she expressed unease, telling him that 2 men came at her wrong. The meaning of this statement has never been clarified, but it immediately caused alarm. Her brother, unable to leave his job, urged her to contact their mother for help. Jessica never followed through on that suggestion. Instead, Jessica made a fateful choice. She called her boyfriend, the same man recently arrested for assaulting her. During their conversation, she disclosed her location at the gas station and explained she intended to walk along East Washington Street to meet him. Despite her injuries, her vulnerability, and the danger he represented, this was the path she chose. The last confirmed sighting of Jessica occurred around 4:30 a.m. as she left the gas station behind. From that moment, she vanished without explanation. No subsequent confirmed encounters or verified communications followed. Jessica stood approximately 5 feet 2 inches tall and weighed about 100 pounds. On that morning, she was wearing a black jacket, blue jeans, and black shoes. She carried several tattoos, including one of her son's name on her neck, along with others marking her arms and body. These distinctive features made her disappearance all the more haunting, underscoring the mystery of how she slipped away without a trace. The immediate aftermath. Jessica's sudden disappearance sent her family into immediate distress. Known for regularly checking in and maintaining close contact, her silence was unlike anything they had experienced before. Most concerning of all, Jessica had a newborn hospitalized at the time, a child she visited often and cared deeply about. For her family, the idea that she would abandon her children without explanation felt unthinkable. The growing absence raised alarm, and by the end of that same day, they filed a missing persons report with the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department. When law enforcement received the report, their initial approach reflected hesitation. Investigators evaluated Jessica's lifestyle and history, pointing to her struggles with drug use and the instability surrounding her circumstances. With these details in mind, authorities determined that foul play was not strongly indicated at that early stage. Their stance was framed around the legal principle that adults retain the right to leave voluntarily, even under difficult conditions. This reasoning shaped the first hours and days of the case, leading to a response that lacked the urgency her loved ones expected. For Jessica's family, that interpretation was deeply frustrating. They insisted repeatedly that Jessica would never willingly sever ties, especially not with her children. To them, the suggestion that she had simply walked away ignored the reality of who she was as a mother and as a daughter. Their concerns were overshadowed by the official viewpoint, which stalled the investigation from moving forward at a critical moment. These early delays in pursuing leads left a lasting impact. Each hour that passed without decisive action only deepened the family's fear and frustration. In their eyes, the absence of urgency in those first days remains one of the most painful factors surrounding Jessica's case. The investigation and suspicions. Investigation into Jessica's disappearance began with immediate attention directed toward her boyfriend. He had been the last person she spoke to by phone, and their relationship carried a troubling history marked by abuse. Police questioned him directly, and he denied having any involvement in her vanishing. Detective Monica Endress, who handled the interview, later expressed her doubts about the credibility of his denial. Despite her skepticism, no charges were ever filed against him, leaving his role in Jessica's story unresolved.
Beyond that relationship, investigators encountered immense challenges within the community where Jessica was last seen. East Washington Street and its surrounding neighborhoods were widely recognized as high-crime areas. Drug activity, prostitution, and violence were common. Witnesses tied to these environments often withheld information, either from fear of retaliation or from a refusal to interact with law enforcement. As a result, critical leads stalled and valuable time slipped away. This silence reinforced the sense of secrecy surrounding Jessica's disappearance, making each step forward harder to secure. The lack of cooperation among potential witnesses was compounded by the absence of definitive physical evidence. Detectives repeatedly emphasized that there was no clear proof indicating foul play. Without direct evidence, they hesitated to classify Jessica's case as anything beyond a missing adult situation. This cautious stance left her disappearance in a limbo, where urgency seemed muted by procedural restraint. Jessica's family, however, rejected that assessment completely. They argued that her close bonds with her children and her consistent family contact eliminated the possibility she had chosen to walk away. In their eyes, Jessica was abducted, most likely by someone she knew and trusted. Their conviction clashed directly with law enforcement's official view, creating an emotional divide that persisted throughout the case. This tension between perspectives became one of the defining elements of the investigation. For detectives, the absence of concrete evidence restrained their ability to act decisively. For her family, every delay and every unanswered question reinforced their belief that crucial opportunities were being missed. Jessica's disappearance, therefore, remained not only an unsolved case but also a portrait of conflict between official procedure and desperate loved ones, each holding to different truths about what happened in those final hours. The family's fight for answers. Jessica's family refused to allow her disappearance to fade into silence. Her sisters, Christina and Ashley, together with their mother, Cher, became the driving force behind keeping her memory alive. They distributed missing posters across Indianapolis, focusing on the very neighborhoods Jessica once walked. Each poster carried her image, serving as both a plea for information and a reminder that her absence remained unresolved. Beyond posters, the family organized public events to maintain awareness. Vigils were held, drawing community members who stood with candles, honoring Jessica while demanding answers. On her birthdays, lantern releases painted the night sky, symbolic gestures of love and hope that her family clung to despite the passing years. In deeply personal acts of devotion, Christina and Ashley even tattooed Jessica's face on their skin, turning their grief into permanent memorials etched into their bodies. In 2021, the family launched a GoFundMe campaign. The goal was to raise funds for a reward that might compel someone to finally speak. The initiative reflected their recognition that fear or indifference often silences witnesses, and money could break that silence. It also reflected their unwillingness to stop fighting, even after years of uncertainty. The toll of Jessica's absence, however, has been immeasurable. Her children have grown up without her. Her youngest never had the chance to know his mother. Only stories and photographs pieced together by relatives determined to keep her presence alive. Milestones passed, birthdays, holidays, school events, without Jessica standing among them. For her family, every celebration has been shadowed by her loss. Despite heartbreak, Christina, Ashley, and Cher continue their pursuit of justice. Their mission is not only about answers, but also about ensuring Jessica's name remains spoken, her story never forgotten, and her memory honored through relentless love. Where the case stands today as of 2024, more than 11 years have passed since Jessica's disappearance, and the silence surrounding her fate remains unbroken. No confirmed sightings have surfaced, and no significant leads have been uncovered to explain what happened in those early morning hours of April 2013. For her family, each year without answers has been a painful reminder of the absence that defines their lives. The Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department has maintained that Jessica's case is still considered open. However, despite interviews, tips, and occasional re-examinations, no charges have ever been brought against anyone connected to her disappearance. Her family believes the investigation lost momentum in its earliest stages, hindered by assumptions tied to Jessica's struggles with addiction and the challenges of her past. They argue that these stereotypes shaped the perception of her case and allowed critical time to be lost. Even without official progress, Jessica's loved ones have worked to ensure her story is not forgotten. Each year, vigils are organized in her honor, gatherings that draw community members who light candles, share memories, and call for justice. Balloon releases mark the passage of time, with family and friends sending messages skyward, symbolic reminders of hope and endurance. These events are more than ceremonies. They are acts of resistance against the silence that has followed her disappearance. At the center of every remembrance is the reminder that Jessica was not defined by her hardships. She was a daughter who laughed with her sisters, a sister who leaned on her family, and a mother who loved her children deeply. Her family continues to plead with anyone who may know the truth to contact authorities or Crime Stoppers of central Indiana, keeping alive the search for answers and the fight for justice.